This is the first time a woman has come to the gym to find her husband, but the staff said her husband had already cancelled his membership 3 months ago. When the woman got home, she found that her husband had left his phone at home. Her sixth sense made her unable to resist opening the phone to check it, but there was nothing on it. Ella put the phone down and felt that she had overreacted. At that moment, the phone suddenly received a text message saying, "Where are you?" Seeing the message that had been withdrawn, Ella had a bad feeling in her heart, so she called a colleague and asked him to help locate her husband's smartwatch. She went to the location where the watch was located and found it near the gym. Ella got back in the car and started waiting. At that time, she received a call from her best friend. On the phone, her best friend thanked Ella for holding the unveiling ceremony for her work. Hearing her best friend's warm words, Ella's eyes instantly filled with tears. Her best friend heard Ella's choking and anxiously asked her what was wrong. However, at that moment, Ella saw the figure of her husband, so she quickly hung up on her best friend. She saw her husband standing not far away, pacing back and forth, looking at her watch every now and then, as if waiting for someone. A few minutes later, a woman came from behind and blindfolded her husband. What Ella never expected was that this woman was her best friend Amy. Watching the two of them leave hand in hand, Ella felt the sky fall apart in an instant. Her mother passed away early, and she grew up with her stepfather. But Ella was smart, hardworking and studious since she was young, so she grew up to become the chairman of a furniture company. After getting married, Ella gave birth to her daughter Ruth. Because she was usually busy with work, her husband Soo Shun-young took on the role of housewife. She thought she had the happiest life. However, for the past 7 years, she had been receiving anonymous text messages and letters. Ella had always ignored them, until one night, while she was working overtime at the company alone, a man in black walked into the office and pushed over the shelf where she kept her trophies. Ella heard a noise and came out to check. At that moment, she suddenly received a text message. The text message contained a photo of the flower basket she had thrown away. It said, "A person who betrays their friends is unforgivable." Ella felt something was wrong and immediately called the police. But as soon as the call was connected, the man in black chased her out of the next room. Ella saw this and had to run for her life. In the panic, her phone fell to the ground. Ella ran back to her office and locked the door. She wanted to call for help, but found that the phone and internet were not working well. Outside the door, the man in black was using a drill to pick the lock. Since the lock was of really good quality, the man in black simply smashed the glass. Ella hid under the table in fear. Seeing the man in black holding a hammer getting closer and closer to her, Ella was already trembling with fear. Luckily, the security guard arrived at this time. The black-clad man had to flee immediately upon seeing this. Later, the police arrived at the scene to investigate, but today's company surveillance was undergoing regular maintenance, so for the time being, there was no way to know the suspect's appearance, and the company had been notified of the surveillance maintenance via email, which meant that everyone in the company was a suspect. The next day, Ella stood in the office and looked at all the employees, trying to analyze who was most likely to have attacked her last night. At this time, she suddenly remembered that there was a camera on the furniture module on her desk yesterday. Ella did not find that module, but she accidentally found a parking ticket on the ground that didn't belong to her. She took the parking ticket to the parking lot and got the car key from the security guard. Ella found a white car. After some searching, Ella found the shirt that the man in black was wearing last night in the trunk. She returned the key to the security guard and then lurked near the car. Soon she saw Eun Tae-woo open the car door, and this Eun Tae-woo was her best male friend. Ella really didn't think that her best friend would want to kill her, so she called her husband Soo Shun-young for help. But Soo Shun-young's phone was unanswered. That's why Ella went to the gym to find her. But who knew her husband was having an affair with her best friend? Betrayed by her friend's husband and her best friend one after the other, Ella felt bad enough. At that time, an insurance investigator named Lewis found her again. From Lewis, she learned her stepfather had once bought insurance for her mother worth 500 million won. The reason the investigator approached her was because they had missed one point, which was that Ella's mother had been admitted to the hospital 3 times for while she was still alive, although the hospital records at the time stated that she had eaten it by mistake. But who could eat pesticide by mistake 3 times? And these things Ella had never heard her stepfather mention. At night Ella walked alone on the street. She felt as if she had lived a joke. However, at this time a black-clad man appeared behind her. In a panic, Ella desperately ran forward. Unexpectedly, she was still caught by the black-clad man, and then he threw her into the river. When Ella woke up in the hospital, she saw the faces of 3 men. One was her husband who betrayed her with her best friend, one was her stepfather who killed her mother, and the other was her best friend who wanted her dead. Ella was unharmed, so she was discharged the next day. Her best friend came to visit her at the office, and in the face of her best friend's care she felt nauseous. Soon after, her stepfather brought her beef bone soup. Thinking that her mother was hospitalized after eating 3 times of pesticide by mistake, Ella didn't dare to drink a single sip, and immediately poured all the soup down the drain. Afterwards, Ella found Lewis. Lewis was a former criminal investigator in the Major Crimes Unit, who resigned after being investigated for suspected bribery, and then became an insurance investigator. Ella hoped that he could investigate the cause of her mother's death, but not for the insurance company. but for herself. Of course, she would also pay Louis enough extra. That day, Ella got home from work early. As expected, her husband was not at home, so she called her secretary to see if her best friend Amy was still at work. After getting a positive reply from her secretary, her husband opened the door and walked in. Ella decided to give her husband a chance to explain, so she asked him where he had been that day if he hadn't gone to the gym. Her husband said that he had indeed gone to the gym that day, but he forgot to tell Ella that he had actually changed gyms. Ella then asked him about the text message. Her husband said that it was because he wasn't familiar with using the watch that he had mistakenly deleted it, and he had sent it to his high school classmate at the time. At this point, Ella suddenly remembered that